So I was speaking with the staff members, and I would say, look, this policy might need tweaking a bit. So let's look at perhaps tweaking this section here. What do you think? So then they would then create that policy, update it, for example, and this is where my journey began. And I remember that I went into a healthcare organization, home care organization, and then I helped them with all of their policies. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I could run my own care business. I went into care homes. All of these healthcare organizations I was going in, and I was creating these policies. So that is where the journey started, really. And then I said to my husband, you know what, I think I can be a coach. And he said, Christine, how can you be a coach when you haven't done it before? You don't even know if something bad was to happen, how could they get out of a situation? And I said, you know what, you're right. So my journey started being a coach like 35 years ago. So for 20 years, I did different healthcare businesses. And when I say different, I mean a lot of healthcare businesses. Some were sole trader, some was with limited company. So back then, you could just be a sole trader and not, be registered on Companies House. So I had multiple different businesses, and some of them were sole trader, some of them was limited company, for example. And I started on that route because I thought, how can I coach people if I don't know the good and I don't know the bad and the ugly, for example. So I went through all of this, and it took me 20 years. And then obviously the recession hit, and things were a bit difficult, and I stopped. And I thought, right, you know what, Christine, you wanted to be a coach 20 years ago. Just do it. You've been in the trenches, and you know what it's like. You've been hit. You stood back up again. You know what it's like. So you're now ready to be a coach. I felt like I wore this badge of honor, that I was then entitled to be a coach. So I then thought, right, I'm now ready to be a coach. And then I thought, okay, how do I market myself? So I was thinking, do I put adverts in the paper? How do I market myself? So then I thought, you know what? Everyone was talking about YouTube. So I thought, YouTube. I'm going to start doing this on YouTube. But first I've got to create a program. Okay, so my program was a teaching program of how to start a care business. So I created a product which was 24 hours worth of instructional videos, and then people attended the boot camp that I held. So at first I was just selling the product, and people would purchase it, and it'd be I should have got the DVDs out, and people would purchase it, and I would post it out to them, for example, and it would be a box set, a DVD box set, and there'd be 12 DVDs in. And me and my family, what we used to do is, in the kitchen we had a CD burner, so we would put the information onto these DVDs, for example. So we would have disc 1, disc 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to disc 12, for example. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I would then package it, and then I would send it out. But it started, how I got the sales was I did YouTube videos. Literally. I did YouTube videos. And then people found me on YouTube. They found me. So they would call me. They would email me. And then I would send them out the items, for example. I'd send them the invoice, then they would pay into the bank, for example, and then I would send them out the goods, for example. And then they would then start to call and say, you know, there's a lot of information here. How do I work through it? So I said, well, you know, start off with DIS 1 and go to DIS 12. So I then thought to myself, Christine, why don't you do a class training them about what's in the video, but also doing it live? So that's what I did. I started doing boot camps, and these were live boot camps in the UK, for example. So I would advertise on YouTube, not paid advertisement. I would do videos on YouTube about what was in the DVD, and that I was having a boot camp, for example. And you know what? That was the best moment, the best time, for example. My husband of 28 years, who passed away in 2017, it was a dream that we built together, and we was like, we've made it, we've done it. And there was my husband and my children, we was all burning these DVDs. We had two CD burners. You could buy them on eBay, for example, and you can put your information on this DVD, because that's what it was back then, a DVD. I didn't have the USB stick, it was a DVD, a CD type thing. So people could put it into their computers, or if they had a DVD, they could listen to it in their car, for example. And that's how the journey began as a coach. And it was all through YouTube, me doing videos on YouTube and saying, please call me. And then people would call me, and then I would talk to them about the product, and then they would be interested and they would say, yes, I want it. So then I would give them my bank details, and then they would pay, and then I would send them the product, and they was happy with it. I never got any returns, for example. So then I thought, let me do one step more to go through the DVD set with the attendees, with the purchasers. So I said, right, so now what I'm going to do is you can come to the boot camp, and I'm going to record the boot camp that you attend, plus you still get the DVD set, for example. And then I was doing the training live in London Holiday Inn. I would book a small room that could hold 27 people. I didn't want it to be too big, because when you come from a teaching background, you know, for some reason I didn't want to have more than 30 students trying to teach them about the system. So that's why it was always under 30. I could have gone 50 if I wanted to, but I didn't. I kept it to under 30 students, for example. So then I was doing that, like every 3 months I was doing the boot camps, for example. They would get the DVD set, and I would say, look, you need to listen to the DVD set, because they'll get videos in the DVD, as well as audios, as well as presentations, for example. So then I say, you need to listen to all of it, and then you attend the boot camp, and then I can walk you through what you've gone through and make sure that you understand how to start your own care agency, for example. So that's where my journey began, and it was beautiful. And then what I used to do is I used to go on YouTube and say that I'm having a live event. Then I started advertising through Eventbrite, for example. But YouTube was the main vessel, because like you can see me now, for example, they can see me when I used to do my videos on YouTube, and I used to have different backdrops, all different colors. I brought about 20 backdrops, for example. I had green screen, I had blue, it was all different colors behind me, for example, and I'd have it in the house, really. It was in a you know, the big lounge area, and I would have it up, the backdrop. So I had plenty of space, and it would be on a platform, so I was higher up, and it looked really nice, for example. So like I said, YouTube was my vessel, and I would also do the Eventbrite pages, and I'm giving you the information here. Eventbrite pages, I would do it, and then they'd be like, for example, I would have hundreds of people show up sometimes. I started off with, say, the first was about 10, I believe, for example, and then actually, sorry, no, my first one, there was about 3 people that showed up, but 10 were registered, but only 3 showed up, for example. And then my next one, my event that I had, the free event, I used to do a free event first so that people would come, for example. Then it would be like 30 people would show up for this free event, for example. Then my next event, it would end up, I had to get a bigger room, for example. So then I would have a room to fit 100 people if I needed to be, but it would be, say, 50 or 60 people would show up. Because whenever you have an event, not everyone shows up that's registered. And it was a free event, for example, that I would do first. And then I would sign them up for the boot camp, for example. And then I just started to grow. It just started to really grow. And then I ended up hiring a room that could fit 1,000 people in, but it would have like 500 people in, for example. And this was all through YouTube.